The Montreal GP was indeed an interesting one, and apart from the bad things that happened to Perez with his retirement, Leclerc with the engine penalty, and Sainz missing out on the speed to attack for P1, there were some positive things too. No, it's not the win of Verstappen, as we're getting quite used to that sight. It was the performance of the Mercedes cars, as both of them were absolutely phenomenal. In the previous 8 years, if you said this, then it would automatically mean that they were P1 and P2 with 25 seconds advantage over P3. Now, a phenomenal result for the team is P3 and P4, as Hamilton celebrated like it was a win for him. It's crazy how situations change in F1, but they could also change into a much better manner for Mercedes, as they seem to have found a solution to their porpoising problem, but for real this time. So stick with us in today's video, as we're going to explain how Mercedes brought back their performance and how they managed to cope with the porpoising problem. Mercedes' weekend started bad, as Hamilton complained that the porpoising is worse than ever. However, the FIA has intervened 24 hours prior to the free practice sessions in Montreal, and Mercedes have been able to fit the second floor unit into their car. This was banned prior to the season debut, as the new regulations took place, which was allowed for the Canadian GP. However, the nature of the allowance, which was just 24 hours prior to the race, made it impossible for teams to bring these parts with them. With that being said, it's quite unclear how Mercedes managed to put this unit in their car, as speculations about possible bias in these rules have been brought out by several teams. However, Mercedes made it work on Sunday, with some updates in genius strategy, and the constant call of Horner that Mercedes may be back sooner rather than later has happened yet again. The pace of Mercedes at the end of the race was very strong. I think that can be a factor to be reckoned with at Silverstone, said Horner. But how did Mercedes find this pace suddenly? The updates themselves have helped them a lot, but it seems like the team is doing lots of experiments in their car setups along with the upgrades too. The zero-pod design and the porpoising have forced the silver arrows on the step, as they have nothing left to do but experiment and find an alternative way for their car to be the best version of itself. On Montreal GP, George Russell was the first one to drive with a setup that brought him some strong results in practice, and these updates were later on inherited by Hamilton too. The newly implemented rules have allowed Mercedes to adjust their car to reduce porpoising by making the car stiffer and adding the additional floor slot. Along with the car setup, they allowed the Mercedes car to reduce the porpoising and be better this weekend. Although we have to mention that the second unit on the floor wasn't in place for the race, and therefore we don't know how much of an impact it had on the porpoising. Sure, it helped them in practice, but the team ran with the old floor from Baku, as they didn't want to face protests being the only team on the grid that runs with this update. It would have been legal, but the nature of obtaining this part and implementing it on the car would be suspect to protests. So, how good were Mercedes actually in Montreal? Well, Lewis Hamilton has managed to beat his teammate Russell for the second time this season, managing to finish P3 just behind Sainz and Verstappen. However, he's had some difficulties passing Alonso right after the Spaniard was passed by Sainz. Not only that, Alonso was able to escape Hamilton by more than 1.5 seconds and maintain the DRS zone with Sainz. But the Spaniard had some problems with an air leak in his Alpine, and the tactic of his team was kind of bad. They missed to pit him on the VSC, and he pitted under green lights while everybody used the virtual safety car or the safety car. This has led to his P7 finish, and after weaving at the main straight, he finished P9. Hamilton and George had some decent pace, but compared to Ferrari and Red Bull, they were nowhere to be found. Plus, it's worth mentioning that two of their main rivals were not present in the fight, and they were Perez and Leclerc. Had they been in the first couple of spots, we highly doubt that Mercedes would have had a decent shot at the P3 and P4 positions. This was also noted by Andrew Chauvelin, the trackside engineer for Mercedes. Lewis had a very solid drive to the podium, which didn't quite have the pace of Max or Carlos, but most of the time it felt that we were just missing 2 or 3 tenths, which will spur us all on to work to close that gap. The team in Brackley and Brixworth will continue to push hard. There are lots to improve on the car, but that can be translated into potential, and the race today has given us more encouragement to keep pushing to close that gap, said Chauvelin. It's good that he stays realistic, and although the upgrades have helped them in killing the porpoising problem, the team will still have problems on tracks that are bumpy and not comfortable to ride. This is because of the bottoming out phenomenon, in which the rear part of the car hits the ground in places where the track is not even, such as the city circuits. However, most of the focus is set on Hamilton for these new updates. He has been the one suffering the most, not just by porpoising, but by bad results too. Hamilton has been constantly outperformed by Russell, and had not it been for the bad tactic of Russell to try with slicks, he probably would have been ahead of the 7-time world champion on Saturday too. But the younger Briton lacks the experience and maturity of a champion, which is why Hamilton has been able to transfer his amazing pace into a P3 on Sunday. It feels great to be in amongst the battle. For a second, I was kind of keeping up with these guys. It's given me and the team a lot of hope that there's more to come from this car. The potential is there. When you get a full race distance, you find a lot out with the car, a lot to take from today. Got really good reliability. Great work from the team. Just got to keep our heads down. I know where I'm losing to these guys, so that's where I'm going to focus on attacking to improve, said Hamilton. He was extremely happy with the results because this is where he managed to get his first career win in 2007 with McLaren and has managed to win the track 7 times in total. But what's coming might be more interesting for Mercedes than other teams. Silverstone is a track that's flat for starters and doesn't have bumpiness all around it. With this layout, their Mercedes cars could be faster compared to other weekends. Even Hamilton believes that the rapid nature of the track will suit his W13 more, as they'll be able to run the updates regarding the second Ford unit to help them battle the porpoising problem. Yes, they'll also be run on other cars too. But apart from Mercedes, expect to see improvements in Ferrari only, as they are the cars that struggled the most with this phenomenon. What's phenomenal for Mercedes is that they've been able to keep the reliability of their car at the top level. This has helped them in gaining some decent results over the calendar, and with them fixing the porpoising problem with the new updates of FIA, they will surely be back on the top places of the podium. Now, all of a sudden, what seemed to have the potential to be the worst season for the team in 8 years might turn into a redemption season for the Silver Arrows in their championship aspirations. Thanks to their reliable car, Mercedes have been able to have 4 3-4 finishes in the race, and they've constantly had 2 cars perform better than them throughout the season. All of those times they were the cars of Red Bull and Ferrari, and that was acknowledged by Hamilton too. They're a little bit too quick for us at the moment, and I was giving it everything. We're getting closer, so we've just got to keep pushing, and eventually we'll hopefully be in the fight with these guys, added Hamilton. He also added that the Mercedes pace after the safety car was extremely satisfying, especially in the second phase of the stint. This, according to him, is thanks to a lot of hard-working hours in the simulator to get the setup right. So with that being said, it seems like Mercedes is back. The Silver Arrows may have found the perfect setup for the car, and it seems like they will push for the win in 2 weeks' time in Silverstone. Now that the porpoising problem may be a history for them, we know that they can deliver thanks to the reliability of their car. The difference between them and Ferrari in the constructors isn't that big either, as the Italian team has the advantage of 38 points. What do you think is next for Mercedes? Will they be able to push it to the maximum and deliver it nicely in Silverstone? Or do you think that the P3, P4 is the most realistic result for the team that they can hope for? Let us know in the comments, as we appreciate your opinion more than everything.